Welcome back to the Gun Bench. Today we are taking a look at a Lefever Arms Company 12 gauge. This particular 12 gauge was made in 1892 by Uncle Dan himself. Now, 1892 is a time period where you're just getting into hammerless shotguns. So this is pretty early on the scene for hammerless guns. Dan Lefever actually had just invented a few years before this the side cocking hammerless shotgun, which was the first of its kind in the United States. This gun follows just a few years after that. So 1892 is a first variation E grade. So this is an E grade Lefever. The way Lefever gradings work, they are essentially sequential throughout the alphabet. There's an Optimus, I think there's like $1,000 grade, but it typically goes A, B, C, D, E, and you have F, G, H, I, and DS, which is a little bit different, which I'm not going to get too much into the history of that. But the E grade, at the time it was released in like the 1890s, was Lefever's first $100 gun. So to put that in perspective, this gun back in the 1890s would have been like a $3,500 gun. So it's not like an everyman's working day gun. It's a little bit above that. This was a little more ornate than you would see just as a beater gun or a farm gun or something like that. So the E's are really where the graded Lefevers start to take off, and there start to be some significant differences between the lower grade and the higher grade guns. So just taking a look at this gun, you can tell it has a fairly nice piece of wood on it. There was a professional stock extension put on this at one point to make the length of pull a little longer. You can still kind of tell where it is when you look closely. It's painted well though. Checkering's done well. You see here we have the cap. It's not just a standard plastic cap thrown on there. A little more ornate. The wood to metal finish is very nice. You can tell the engraving on this is phenomenal. So here's a setter. Scroll work's done very well. We'll be taking a look at this in a moment. It's a little different. This gun has a lot of features on it that are pretty unique to Lefever. The barrels are in very nice shape, completely unpitted inside. Kills me, there's a very, very slight ring bulge that I guess I did shooting this at a clays course. Not entirely sure how it happened. I'm very sad about that though. Take a look at the side plate. You can see the two woodcock there. So this is how we know it's a first variation by the engraving on it. Later variations typically have a slightly different bird setup here. The latest variations, so like early is 1890s, early 1900s, you have the mid variation. Engraving will be a little bit different. By the latest variation of these, like the teens and early, well, I guess the latter half of like the 1910 range, you'll start seeing a circle here with birds and setters and stuff engraved inside of it. If you see a circle gun, it's just a later gun. Still an E grade though. Let me show you the other side of this. I love this scene. You have a setter here. You can kind of see here this woodcock. It's actually falling out of the sky. It's been shot. It's a pretty cool little scene. Scroll works very nice. You can tell there's still some boogered screws on this. Not too bad though. It's funny, the boogered screws on this here and over here as well. The reason they're boogered is they're the ones that you'd mess with the most. So these guns were pretty much fully adjustable. And this actually can adjust the trigger pulls. So by messing around with the screw here, you can change the weight of your trigger pulls. So that's why this thing's been boogered around a little bit. They probably mess with that more than taking the side plates off or anything like that. Here we have cocking indicators. So you can see on both sides that the thing is cocked. Now, I said that this thing has some features on it. This thing is fully adjustable. So you can adjust the triggers there. Check this out. Usually you have a latch, Hanson and Dealey, push button, something. Here, this is an Uncle Dan special. I guess so the gun doesn't hit hard here. This little splinter forend here, actually press it directly in. Nice attention to detail there. Very thin, very light. This gun is a sub 7-pound 12 gauge. It is a very light, quick handling gun. It has 28-inch barrels. They're choked modified, improved modified. They have not been cut as far as I know. Which is interesting because a lot of these guns have 30-inch barrels and they are typically like full, modified full. So this thing has slightly more open chokes. It's a very, very light gun, points well. But yeah, this little splinter fore end here, it's a different release mechanism. It's pretty cool. We take the gun a little further apart. You will also see, let me get this oriented correctly. It'll be hard to see here. You'll see that it has this, an adjustable knuckle. So this, see here, there's a ball there. The barrels will be on that ball. And if you adjust this here, I actually have a tool. Of course, right now, it's not in front of me on my bench. I don't know where I sat it. But I have a tool that you can put in here and you can twist this. You can adjust the barrel. So if the thing starts to come off face, the barrels come off face, you get proud here, you can adjust this and you can get the barrels back on face on your own. Very adjustable. That's a really interesting, just ingenious thing that Uncle Dan designed here to be able to do that. So you can adjust how close the barrels are there, adjust the trigger pulls on this thing. They're a pretty cool little gun. Again, very light gun. Now, there's two things that I would love to get better at. First is identifying different types of Damascus patterns. And the second is getting better with early American engravers. So there's one or two guys that was probably responsible for doing this. I'm not going to get into that because I can't speak authoritatively on it. But just take a look at this work. In my opinion, the Lefevers are the nicest of the vintage American shotguns. The attention to detail, the wood to metal finish, the ingenuity of Uncle Dan. And look at these woodcock. They're gorgeous. Look at the attention to detail on the screw heads, the border engraving. I mean, take a look at this setter. Unbelievably nice. Same thing here. Beautiful setter. If we look really closely there, it almost looks like there's feathers coming off of this woodcock. And it's just shot. It's just a nice gun. And these are still fairly affordable too. They're not like a D, C, B, or A grade Lefever. These can be had out there. But they're a really beautiful piece of American workmanship. Just absolutely gorgeous. The doll's head extension. But yeah, these E grades, they come up occasionally. I'm a fan of the earlier engraving style, more so than the mid and the late. The circle engraving, it reminds me of like L.C. Smith. A lot of these companies shared engravers. Again, that's something I need to study up on. I am not very good with American engravers. And also Damascus patterns. But yeah, taking a look at these barrels, they're really beautiful. See if you can see the pattern here. They're not stained. They're in really good shape. And it's funny, you can barely even tell that there's a very slight, you can't even feel it. There's a very slight ring bulge somewhere in here. You can only see it when you look inside the barrel, and you can barely even tell. I'm really annoyed because I don't think it had that when I bought it. And then I shot it a few times and I went and noticed. I always check to look down the barrel to make sure there's not a wad or anything stuck. So I have no idea how it would have happened. Again, very, very beautiful shotgun. The reason I don't think these things are cut either, it's going to be hard to get the camera to focus here, but the barrels fully touch. They fully touch on the end here. It doesn't look like they've been cut to me. Still ring like a bell. The ribs very, very tight. But just beautiful Damascus. Beautiful piece of metal here. Yeah, these are the Lefever E grades. This was, I don't have a ton of rated shotguns. This is one of my only ones that's like above entry level or 1 or 2 steps above it. I have to clean my fingerprints off. Just let you just admire that work. 1892. There are men and women who are painstakingly engraving these. Just amazing to me. Wood to metal finish, it's phenomenal. Just get to admire this artwork a little bit more. Hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I just like looking at this gun, even if I don't shoot it or walk through the woods with it. It's just nice to look at. Just absolutely gorgeous setter. Fences, just real basic work here. It's a pretty nice gun. I believe there's another adjustment here. I can't remember what this one is. But you have the adjustment here for the trigger weights. And the later variations, I don't believe have this. I don't know about the knuckle. That ball there. I don't know how long that stayed in existence, but it's really nifty. It's because you can adjust getting the gun back on face pretty easily on yourself or by yourself. But again, just a beautiful gun. This is an E grade made in 1892. It's a sub 7 pound. It's 6 pounds, 14 or 15 ounces. I can't remember offhandedly. Choke modified, improved modified. I usually shoot black powder out of it. I have put RSTs through it as well. It's a pretty gun. I just want to share that with you. If you are looking at a pretty exceptional, in my opinion, American vintage gun, the early Lefevers, like Uncle Dan, I don't think any of our gunsmiths really hold a candle to him when it comes to just his level of execution on a gun and his ingenuity, like the things that he did. The first hammerless gun, the beautiful work he did with nickels. I have a Barber and Lefever that's gorgeous. Just all of his guns are just phenomenal. Even the H and G grades, where they're very plain, just they're very nice guns. Very nice guns. In any case, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to learn more about Lefever guns, the Lefever Collectors, phenomenal website. If you take a look at Guns of Lasting Fame, there's a lot of information in here. What's the Lefever website though is phenomenal because there's pictures. So if you have a gun that you don't know what it is, if you take a look at those pictures on the website, it can help give you a better idea of what it is you have. And here's that little tiny splinter forend. Tiny little thing. And that push button. It's a pretty cool little gun. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have a Lefever or you're looking to get an American vintage gun that just is quality and has beautiful engraving, these first iteration, first variation E grades, I don't think you need to look any further. These do sometimes come with ejectors. Mine's extractors. They can be found. But yeah, a very nice, beautiful example of an American vintage gun. Again, one of the earlier hammerless guns to be made here in the United States. In any case, have a great rest of your day. If you have these, try to keep them alive, preserve them. Like this one, it's in good shape. I hope to keep it that way. I'm not going to hunt with it in the rain or in the marsh, but enjoy shooting these if you can.